Good evening, everyone. For those joining us virtually and are utilizing ASL interpreter services, our interpreters today are Ariel and Erica Agramonte. You can pin their video on your screen. Instructions for utilization will be found in the chat. For those utilizing CART services, the link will also be found in the chat. Thank you very much.
Good evening and welcome. My name is Arva Rice. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the interim chair of the Civilian Complaint Review Board. I would like to call the CCRB's August public board meeting to order. Will the board please introduce themselves now, starting with Pat on the side. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Pat Smith, mayoral appointee. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Herman Merritt, City Council designee from Brooklyn.
Good afternoon, John Siegel. I was appointed by a mayor.
Good afternoon. My name is John Darsh. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the executive director of the agency.
June Northern, mayor appointee from Brooklyn.
Eddie Hogan, City Council appointee from Queens.
Joe Fox, Police Commissioner appointee.
Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Puma. I go by he, him pronouns. I'm the City Council appointee from Manhattan.
Thank you. Is there anyone on the line? No. Okay. Are there any changes or corrections to the July public board meeting minutes?
Yes. Madam
Yes.
Chair.
Mhm.
On page 12, line 15, this board commends a share of Arva Rice. I think that should be chair of Arva Rice.
Oh, sure.
Chair Arva Rice.
Okay.
And I promise in the future to be more articulate.
Okay. Thank you.
That's page 12, line 15.
Are there any other corrections to the minutes? Any other corrections? If none, can I ask for a motion to approve the July board meeting minutes with the correction on page 12, line 15 as stated? All those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Good afternoon, everyone. I have served as the interim chair of this board for over 2.5 years, and today is my final day with the agency. I submitted my resignation to the mayor on July 22nd after giving a great deal of thought to what is best for both the Civilian Complaint Review Board and my fellow New Yorkers. Some of you may know that in addition to my work with the CCRB, I am also president and CEO of the New York Urban League. The New York Urban League is a civil rights organization that empowers African Americans and other underserved communities. The upcoming presidential election could have monumental consequences for the communities we serve. I've decided that I need to dedicate the entirety of my time and energy to mobilizing New Yorkers to get involved and make their voices heard in that capacity. My tenure has shown that the Civilian Complaint Review Board is a vital resource for our city. I believe it deserves a full-time chair who is able to dedicate themselves completely to advocacy and leadership. It is my hope that in focusing my efforts elsewhere, a new chair will be appointed who will continue this critical work. I urge the mayor and the speaker to come together and agree on a chair who will be able to lead the agency forward. Before my initial appointment to the board in June of 2021, I worked on various task forces with the NYPD. Most recently, I co-chaired the Reimagining Policing Task Force with Jennifer Jones Austin and Governor Wes Moore. The task force convened town halls and focus groups with members of service, unions, and the community, focused on ensuring that public safety be fair and just for all New Yorkers. It was during this time that I became even more familiar with the system of civilian oversight in New York City. As a result of this, I was both honored and excited when I was appointed to the board and given the opportunity to continue this work in a meaningful way. Joining the board underscored the importance of the work of this agency for civilian oversight and police accountability. This is an agency of New Yorkers who dedicate their professional lives to holding those in power accountable, and it has been my honor to lead and advocate for them as interim chair. My time on the board has also showed me that the CCRB is a national model of civilian oversight. We oversee the largest police force in the country and set the standard through thorough and impartial investigations. I'm very proud of our work and the milestones we were able to achieve during my tenure. In 2023, the agency saw an overall reduction in investigation times, even as the number of complaints we received increased dramatically. We also eliminated the backlog of open complaints from the COVID-19 crisis. This was an agency-wide effort requiring commitment from investigators, attorneys, support staff, and board members. We also made strides toward increasing transparency and police accountability. To this end, we began publishing redacted closing reports to the website. We also issued an extensive report on the NYPD response to the summer 2020 protest. This report included recommendations to the NYPD on how to improve their tactics in policing widespread demonstrations. The agency also began to investigate complaints of racial profiling and bias-based policing through a dedicated investigative unit. Investigating those allegations is so critical to just and fair policing. I want to thank the staff for their hard work. Their work is not easy, but they remain committed and fair. I'd like to especially thank my colleagues on the board who bring a diversity of backgrounds and viewpoints to the table to discuss individual complaints. From all different ethnicities, life experiences, and neighborhoods, those with experience as police officers and those without, we speak together and listen to each other. We deliberate and vote in accordance with the fact of the cases presented to us while respecting our colleagues' points of view. I'm proud to have worked with them, led them, and learned from them. I'd like to close by saying it has been an honor and a privilege to serve my fellow New Yorkers as interim chair of this board. And although no longer in this formal role, I will remain an advocate of police oversight and accountability. I'll now pass it over to Executive Director John Darsh for an agency report.
On behalf of the staff of the agency, I want to extend my sincere thanks to Chair Rice for her service and leadership. Inasmuch as Chair Rice was a formidable leader for the agency, she was also a thoughtful and dedicated board member and a very good boss. The CCRB benefited from Arva's wisdom, experience, and tenacity in many ways, and she will be missed. I also want to express my gratitude to the administration and council for providing the CCRB with funding to hire 19 new staff members. These positions include a full class of investigators, an APU prosecutor, an investigating attorney and data analyst for our racial profiling unit, and an outreach coordinator. Please visit the NYC employment portal at jobs.nyc.gov for more information and to apply for a position. You can also reach out to careers@ccrb.nyc.gov for more information. Earlier this week, the CCRB Policy and Data Unit published both the 2024 semi-annual report and the APU report for the second quarter of 2024. Both reports are available on our website. Our office is open for walk-in complaints, but it is also possible to file complaints online at nyc.gov/CCRB complaint, nyc.gov/CCRB COMPLAINT. By telephone at 1-800-341-2272, by calling 311, or by tagging the agency on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If anyone wishes to file a complaint right now, we have two investigators here with us today, Emma Steidehar and Rob Bryan. Also, Ivana Torres is here from the Civilian Assistance Unit. Some ground rules for today's meeting. Please keep your remarks to 4 minutes, regardless of whether you are speaking remotely or in person. Finally, I want to remind everyone that the September board meeting will be on Wednesday, the 18th, which is a little later than in the month than usual. As always, information about the meeting will be posted on our website and on social media.
Thank you, John. Does anyone have any questions for our executive director?
Madam Chair, on the monthly report, pages 37, 38, am I seeing some progress in mediation here? Especially in the 4-0 precinct and the 8-3 precinct.
And I'm going to have our executive director respond to that question.
And if so, can we make that grow, please?
One moment.
You didn't know there was a quiz, huh?
So the mediation unit, which is currently led by Caroline Hanna as part of the investigations unit, has been working steadily since the office has been back full-time at the end of the pandemic to keep remote options open for folks while proceeding with resuming in-person mediations. And we've also had a focus on not letting cases sit in mediation. If we don't want cases to avoid investigation because we tried for too long to mediate a case and then it became impossible to both mediate it and investigate it. So the mediation unit has been working very hard, and while numbers have improved recently in those two precincts, as a overall, we still need to do more work to bring the mediation unit back to where it was previously. But I think it's also important to note that on an individual case basis, we don't have a preference for mediation over something else. It is truly up to the people involved, both the civilians and the members of service. We don't force mediation on folks. We make them aware that it's an option that they can choose, because we don't want people to find themselves in mediations that they don't truly want.
Are there any other questions of our of our executive director? Sorry. Whoops. Any other questions of our executive director? Okay, if not, we're going to have our presentation from our Director of Outreach, Jahai Rose.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Jahai Rose. As mentioned, I go by he, him pronouns, and I'm the Director of Outreach. I'll just be providing with a brief overview of the agency and some interesting updates. The New York City Civilian Complaint Review Board is the nation's largest independent oversight entity over the largest police force in the country. The Civilian Complaint Review Board investigates, mediates, and administratively prosecutes complaints alleged against New York City members of the police department, the NYPD. The agency is governed by a 15-member board. The board are selected by 5 appointed by the New York City mayor, 5 are appointed by the New York City Council, 3 are designated by the New York City Police Commissioner, 1 is appointed by the public advocate, and the chair is jointly appointed by the mayor and the City Council. The CCRB can investigate allegations of force, abuse of authority, discourtesy, and offensive language. If you do see complaints of police misconduct, you can feel free to file those, as previously mentioned, by going to our agency's website, nyc.gov/CCRB complaint. Also, you could call the agency's hotline at 1-800-341-CCRB or 1-800-341-2272. Remember, if you see footage of misconduct on social media or in the news, you could also file a complaint to the CCRB, even if you are not there in person. Typical handle is at CCRB_NYC. Additional ways to file a complaint with the CCRB also include calling 311. You could also come to the agency's headquarters at 100 Church Street on the 10th floor in Lower Manhattan. You could also direct message or DM the CCRB on social media. That's at Facebook, Twitter or X, and Instagram. Handle is at CCRB_NYC. You could also send a letter to the agency as well at 100 Church Street, 10th floor, New York, New York, zip code 10007. You could also file a complaint at any local precinct throughout the 5 boroughs, even if that's not where the encounter took place. The NYPD is required to take complaints about police misconduct, except CCRB complaints. You could also request a complaint form and a self-addressed envelope. As mentioned, the CCRB is hiring. So we are hiring for various positions. from investigators to investigating attorneys, all the way to outreach coordinators. Feel free to go to the New York City Jobs website, nyc.gov/jobs. You could also email the CCRB at careers@ccrb.nyc.gov. That information is also in the chat. So over the summer, we had the pleasure of hosting SYEP interns. That's summer youth employment interns. The summer youth employment interns were assigned to us by Transition and College Access Center. That program assigned us 8 interns for the summer. We worked with 9 collectively. Some of the activities that the interns engaged was youth ambassador training, where they learn how to connect with other young people and do peer-to-peer outreach to to young New Yorkers. They also engaged in CCRB Cares, which is a volunteer initiative. They watched a APU trial, did an observation. They also did community outreach. They did research for our agency. They collected data and information and did phone banking. These are some of the activities that our SYEP interns participated in. They were able to meet Councilmember Sandy Nurse, also the House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries during National Night Out Against Crime. This is some photos of the CCRB Cares Initiative in Brownsville at Nehemiah Playground. They helped to restore some of the infrastructure at the playground by painting. Our SYEP students also engaged in creating social media content for us so we could be able to appeal to more young people online. This is a gallery of some of the images that were created by some of our SYEP students. Okay, our SYEP students also worked with the CAU to be able to do data collection, to be able to expand the amount of outreach that we could do to folks and referrals that we could provide to individuals as well. So for this year, we definitely want to say thank you to our SYEP interns. So there are more of them, but the closer we got towards the end of the year, many of them did have to travel for the remainder of the program. Some of them are working virtually from Mexico. That's the level of dedication that they had. So they've been very dedicated in the work that they've been doing. So I had a blast working with them. Their last day is Friday, so if you want pictures, it will cost. So thank you all very much. If you'd like to request an outreach presentation from the CCRB, feel free to connect with us via email at outreach@ccrb.nyc.gov or connect with us online on our social media platforms and on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you.
Very good. Anyone have any questions for Jahai? Yes.
I ended up in a conversation with Daniel before the meeting. Turned out he was at the same school where my daughter is a counselor. So, and she just texted back, always friendly, kind-hearted, and curious.
Wonderful. Any other questions or comments for Jahai? Great. Congratulations to the SYEP young people for the work that you did this summer. We appreciate you. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will now enter the public comment portion of the meeting. We will begin with those joining us virtually who would like to make a comment, followed by those who are joining us in person. For those joining virtually, we ask you to please use the raise your hand feature and please keep your comments to 4 minutes. I would also like to recognize one of the members of our board who has joined us virtually. Charlene, if you would introduce yourself, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Charlene Brown. I am Police Commissioner Designee.
Thank you. Good enough. With that said, Yahira, would you please call on the first person?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, we have Eric Gumansky.
I have a question about something that was in the semi-annual report, I believe, and that is about the rise in number of cases that the NYPD is ending without review because they come within 90 days of the statute of limitations. Can board members tell me if they're aware of that and whether they think that's something that needs to be addressed.
I don't know if any member of the board wanted to address Mr. Urmanski's question. No? Okay. John, did you want to say anything?
So the policy began in 2021 where the NYPD's Department Advocates Office instituted a policy of closing matters referred to them for lesser discipline, not charges, without review if they receive the case within 90 days of the statute of limitations. And so that's the policy that Mr. Umansky referred to in his question. It is something that has become more widespread, especially as the investigations division has made an effort to reduce investigation times. There are more and more cases that fall into the category of under 90 days to the SOL, but are still actually quite far from the SOL. So I think I want to say there were 330 cases closed in the second quarter of 2024 short SOL, but I think Lincoln is here. Is that close to right?
It's very close. But I don't know the exact number either.
$313, $383. Okay. I was under.
Page, that's a page 43, so.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
John, is that's policy still only applied to non-charges cases?
Correct. The Department Advocate's Office is still committed to either using its powers under Provision 2 or serving charges in charges cases it receives from the CCRB.
So the way I look at this is effectively they've shortened the statute of limitations by 90 days. Is that not, is there some other way to look at it? Because that's how I look at it. I don't think I could, as a defense counsel, say to a judge, oh, it's within 90 days, so the statute applies. It just seems arbitrary to me.
On the border, it's a public session. He had his time to talk. It's our time to talk.
I'm asking a question. I don't know why I have a problem with that.
Talk or ask a question. Our time. Will the chair rule the point of
I
order?
don't know. Usually you criticize us because we don't have anything to say, so. I don't- All right, I just asked the question. You answer it at the appropriate time, John.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Urmanski, for your question. And Yohira, can we hear from the next speaker?
Next, we have Asata Maika Rhodes.
Asada Kia of the Rhodes family. Can you all hear me?
Yes. Can you start from the beginning?
Yes. Greetings all. I'm Asada Makia of the Rhodes family. In March of 2023, property of which I was in control of was unlawfully and illegally confiscated without right or privilege by uniformed City of New York police officers. 11 days later, a complaint was delivered to and received by the CCRB. Despite that complaint being received in March, and despite my several attempts to follow up on the matter, the complaint was not noted as registered until 8 months later. That complaint was reportedly investigated by CCRB, and that case was closed just last month. I received notification that CCRB determined the officer's conduct was within NYPD guidelines with no further details. I believe I have grounds to appeal CCRB's determination, but find it difficult to appropriately appeal because I don't have any information whatsoever about the specifics of the investigation. I was not contacted by the investigator at any point during the investigation following our initial conversation about the matter, and I do believe I may have information that would sustain an appeal. I filed 2 Freedom of Information requests to obtain documents relevant to that case and was subsequently notified by CCRB that the FOIA request will not be fulfilled until July of 2025. I'm concerned that certain relevant deadlines will not be met if I wait until then. Can you advise me on how to gather those relevant details to pursue this case further?
Thank you very much, Ms. Rhodes. I'm going to have our executive director respond to your question.
So Ms. Rhodes, I will check with the FOIL unit. It's now no longer just one person. It's now 2 people. So I will speak to the leader of the FOIL unit at the conclusion of this meeting, and we will expedite getting you the information you need to file a reopen request, which is essentially what an appeal is. And we'll make sure that you get the information of what we did gather. Because one of the things we look for in a reopen request is that you have new information. And so we'll make sure you know what we did have so that you can give us additional information that we can use when evaluating the reopen request.
Thank you. Is there an email address that I can have so that I can basically move it up to the front of the line so you don't have to go digging through those requests?
So if you send it to my assistant, Helen Pressberg, HPRESBERG at ccrb.nyc.gov, she will forward it to me and I'll make sure it gets looked at forthwith.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Yahira, can we have the next speaker?
Next, we'll be hearing from Doyen Adiko Abuaba. Doyen, can you hear us? You'll have to unmute, Doyen.
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Doyen Adeko. I live in 722 Post Avenue. Although I've been vacated by the Borough Building, due to the illegal apartments, but on 17th of August, the official of the Borough Building came to the house for inspection, and the landlord was harassing me on that very day. She came into my apartment to harass me with the wife, cursing me, yelling, and all sort of things. I called the NYPD on that day. For 2 hours, I did not see anyone to come around to arrest the offender. So apart from that, and there was another case that I reported in the same station at 78 Richmond Terrace, that the landlord opened my apartment with his personal key while I was in the house. We were in the house sleeping. He came in and, that very morning asked me, "What are you looking for? You want to come into my house, you have to inform me." So that very day, I called, but no response. I have to go there again to report the scene. And they said the landlord has the right to enter his house. Is it when I'm inside or an emergency? So again, reported harassment. They told me you cannot, the landlord has a right to enter the house where I rented from him, that there's nothing they can do. And I was shocked. So I don't understand it. Maybe it's in the New York State law, that every landlord can enter a tenant's house without a permission, without notifying him that he's want to do something in the house. And we don't have emergency in the house. But he rented a legal apartment for me. So that is my case.
You're good. I wanted to ask him a question.
So Abawaba,
Yes, sir.
the rights of landlords and tenants in New York City are complicated, and the responsibilities of police officers are also complicated. So this is something where you would really need to talk to an investigator so that we could get all of the details about the situation. Then we can let you know if this is something that is in our jurisdiction, or if this is something we can refer to someone else. So what I'm going to ask is that you hold on, and then you speak to one of our investigators, and either we can take the complaint right now from you, or we can make an appointment to follow up with you and your wife at a later time. But I'm going to ask that you hold on, and either Emma or Rob will reach out to you right now.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Yohira, can we hear from the next speaker?
That concludes the virtual portion of the public comment.
Thank you. I appreciate that. For those joining us in person and are interested in making a public comment, please line up behind the podium, and we're going to ask you to keep your comments also to 4 minutes. Good evening, Mr. Dunn.
Good afternoon. For those of you I have not met, I'm Chris Dunn from the New York Civil Liberties Union. I've been coming to CCRB meetings for 25 years now, but I have not been since the pandemic, so I apologize for that, but I wanted to be here for Arva's last meeting. But before I turn to that, I did want to raise a couple substantive questions. First, to pick up on Eric's question about the semi-annual report, and I first should note, there have been years when semi-annual reports showed up 6 months, 18 months, 24 months after the end of the semi-annual period. Good for you for getting the report out in a timely way. But there's a bombshell in this report that Eric has flagged, which is the huge increase in the cases being closed based upon a claimed SOL concern, particularly with the number of cases between 60 and 90 days from the SOL, which I think is 279 cases for this 6-month period. And to pick up on John's point, and John, feel free to respond during my time. I do think there is a question about what is going on with the department. So John, I am curious, John Darsh, I apologize. I am curious to hear what the department has been saying about this. And I'm also curious, and I'm looking at you, Mr. Fox, as a police department rep, to hear what members on the board here from the police department think about this situation.
So the policy is from 2021. It's a department advocate policy. And I think they are trying to process these cases as fast as they can. And sometimes they have difficulty doing it within the time period that they have given themselves. I think there are things they could do to preserve the statute of limitations and allow if they require more time to review these cases, that they could do it, but we haven't made progress on that line of conversation.
Okay, Mr. Fox, not to put you on the spot, but here you are. Do you think you could help make some progress on this?
I'm not an employee of the NYPD, Chris. I'm a police designate. So my primary job is to review cases, which I've been doing for almost 3 years now. I don't speak for the police commissioner, the Commissioner Caban. I think John Siegel touched on the complexity of this or the issue that could be raised. John Dosh covered what I do understand to be the challenge. There's a process that happens once a police officer is served, there's notice, there's a lot of things that happen in that realm that I don't have direct experience with when I was on the job, now. But I think that's the most I have.
Yeah. Well, I think you're being perhaps a little bit modest. You have a long and distinguished career in the department. You carry a lot of weight in the department. I'm sure your say would make a difference. And whatever may have been the situation before this 6-month period, we've got nearly 300 cases that are going down the tubes based upon this policy. Somebody needs to say, as John Siegel said, you guys are cheating. You're just treating the statute of limitations as being today as opposed to 3 months out. This report shows something has got to happen on this. All right, the second thing I want to raise is based upon some of the reporting in the last week or so about Deputy Commissioner Daughtry and what looks to be a fast one the department pulled on you about his status as either a civilian or an MOS. The reporting, as I understand it, and I only know what I read in the papers, so I accept that caveat. He's acting as a member of service. He's carrying a weapon, but somehow they have tried to characterize him as a civilian to remove your jurisdiction from complaints that were live before his claimed change of status. And I don't know what the department is saying about that now. I saw some reporting today that they are being very oblique about pointing to some sort of special provision. All I can say is, given what has been reported, I hope the CCRB will aggressively move to reopen those investigations. And I understand we're going to run into a statute of limitations problem, perhaps. Everything comes back to something. But I think for the agency, it's important to do that. And I think as part of that, it's important to get to the bottom of what the department did and what the department said to the CCRB about his status. Because it sure looks like something squirrely happened here.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn, for that comment. And unfortunately, I think we're about to get to the end of your time, but want to make sure that we do handle that. It's my understanding that he was in the category of now civilian rather than a member of service. But I do want John to be able to respond to your question.
So when a member of service goes from being an active member of service to an inactive member of service, there are a variety of reasons that could happen. They can retire, they can separate or resign from the department without a pension, or sometimes they can go from being a member of service to a civilian employee. For example, the police commissioner before he was the police commissioner was the first deputy commissioner. And when he got promoted to be first deputy commissioner, he went to this inactive list. And so our case tracking, when that promotion happened, marked police commissioner Caban as inactive. And our case tracking system did the same thing with deputy commissioner Daughtry. So I think the characterization of a fast one, or that was done for the purpose of closing the open CCRB allegations, is several steps further than I think we have evidence for. And we don't, as the agency, decide whether someone is a member of service. We have jurisdiction over members of service. So to us, once we were informed he was no longer an active member of service, that he no longer was in our jurisdiction.
I get all that. I appreciate the care. All I'm saying is it's important to get to the bottom of it. And then finally, Arv, if you'll allow me, because I think I've been talking probably for less than 3 minutes. And I want to talk about you just for a moment. It's not typically the role of the NYCLU to be praising government officials, but I want to make an exception here, and I'll be brief. You have been a voice of conscience for police accountability. When the occasion has presented itself where that has required you to be critical of the police department, you have been open in doing so, and you get enormous credit for doing that. And the integrity and the commitment and the passion and the dignity that you brought to your position is something that everybody sees, and we appreciate that.
Mr. Myers.
Yes, I'm Michael Myers, the president of the New York Civil Rights Coalition. There seems to be a public comment for favorites of the CCRB. That was done at the last meeting when city council members were called on and given preferential status to address this board at its public meeting. Rather than amend the agenda to have these public officials comment as a part of the agenda item, precious time was taken away from the public comment section, placing public officials ahead of the ordinary members of the public, the people, when you're supposed to hear from us. And I don't understand what's going on in this organization anymore. This is manifestly unfair. It is, as a matter of fact, discourteous and offensive to the public comment section of the CCRB meetings. Secondly, representatives and individuals favored by the CCRB have been given a total of 4 minutes to address the public meeting, but towards the end or middle of their comments, they have been allowed to put questions to the CCRB, the answers to which the CCRB takes up precious time from the public comment section to answer, and put that in quotes. What is the rule? Do members of the public have 4 minutes to speak, or may they also hog the microphone with their personal agendas and the so-called agenda of their so-called organizations? This is outrageous in my view. You gotta have fair treatment. You gotta have rules that apply to everybody. If the rules don't apply to everybody, then there are no rules. And I find that objectionable. Why are the members of the public online given the preference to address the public meeting ahead of members of the public who are present at the meeting? Nobody ever explained that to me. We are here waiting to address this board, but we have to wait for all kinds of comments, sundry comments and questions of all the board members, who then take their time to address those questions. Even as we wait to address you, this is uncalled for. This is not in the rules. I want to see those rules again, where the board speaks to every question from online and in person before the public comment section is even concluded. We are supposed to have this time to talk to the board, not the board to talk to us. When the rules of the CCRB are flagrantly violated or ignored, does a member of the public have the right to make a point of order to the chair of the CCRB and seek an immediate ruling on the point of order? Or does that privilege belong only to CCRB board members, to CCRB members who themselves may favor or disfavor a particular speaker or cause? Finally, and I'm outraged, I'm upset about this whole process. I think it's out of order. I want to see your rules again. You got to republish those rules. And you got to read them and understand when you are violating those rules, ignoring the public comment or transgressing the public comment rules. Finally, the problems with your WebEx service have been persistent, notwithstanding our complaints and our comments rendered inaudible. The fault not being on our side, the question must be addressed and must be raised. Why does the CCRB insist on WebEx? Is this a city requirement? Are there any conflict of interest protocols established over this communication system? By conflict of interest, you know exactly what I mean and what I'm inquiring about. I want to know. I think this board and the public ought to know about how in the hell do you have WebEx that doesn't work and you keep it despite complaints. The hour is late. CCRB must reorder its agendas and priorities and systems so as to function as a fair and neutral investigative body and public commission with a reputation for integrity, not partisanship or favor for one side or the other of a public concern. So I also congratulate again the chair of the committee, of the board, but you were not really explicit or clear about why you're leaving this board, Madam Chair. You know the mayor asked for your resignation, and you would have to say that again and again and again for the record, because there was an outrageous request, and this board didn't say anything about it in terms of responding.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. Appreciate your comment. I do believe that WebEx is the official communication of the New York City, and I don't know if you wanted to and I don't know if you wanted to respond to any of the other comments that were raised, John.
So I will check with our IT department about whether we can not use WebEx, because I believe I was on a Zoom with city folk earlier today. And if it is possible for us to switch to Zoom, I have no problem with that. With regard to why we go for people who are online first and then in person, is when we first started experimenting with these hybrid meetings, we would have an issue where people who were present would would give their comment, and then later there would be someone who was virtual who would then comment on their comment, and the person who was in person would then want to respond. And so it is easier for us to structure the meeting to allow the people who are online to go first, and then the people who are here in person get the benefit, in our view, of responding to the people who are online, and then not having the people who are online use their words without them having a chance to respond. And finally, on the favoritism allegation, I remember the two elected officials last month criticizing the agency. And I would like to think that if I was going to play favorites, I would actually play favorite for someone who was not going to criticize the agency. And so I just think that is just not a fair criticism of our agency.
Thank you.
But not my proof.
Okay, so it's pretty hard to follow that, but I'm gonna definitely try. So, Rick Robinson, I am the manager for the Newark, New Jersey CCRB. So, my last time here was in 2016 when I was a board chair. So, Madam Chair, I actually applaud your efforts. But first, let me give a Newark greeting from Mayor Raj J. Baraka and the Municipal Council and the residents of Newark, New Jersey. I serve as the manager and Director Darch, Madam Chair Rice, and board members and staff and residents. First of all, I want to say thank you. We have been, well, a lot of you do not know, so I'll actually make it clear. The Newark New Jersey CCRB has restarted. We had a death, an unfortunate matter regarding our former director. I met John when John was actually the AP,
The chief prosecutor.
chief prosecutor, years ago. He still hasn't fed me, but it's okay. But I want to let everybody know involving who's on this call by stream or whatever vehicle you're using. The New York City CCRB has been instrumental in the actual building for the Newark, New Jersey CCRB. We are actually scheduled to launch in October. And on behalf of my staff, I want to actually send out this note to everybody. I will be far behind with my process if it wasn't for Director Darch, Chairwoman Rice, board members, and the CCRB staff. So I actually am here in person to thank you because I am very, very grateful along with the staff. And we could not have been actually ready for our launch, which is going to be in October. So I think the other thing is Director Darch already knows. We have been dealing with legislation. We have been dealing with police. We have been dealing with city officials. So your presence and your visibility is pivotal and essential. I say that because without this vehicle, people will not have the voice to actually address matters that we know about. So you should be applauded. You really should. My situation over across the waters, or I should say our situation across the waters, is we're looking to actually somewhat be honored by you because you have been doing this for years. And as I mentioned earlier, I met John in 2016, and I am so grateful for our relationship. Our investigators speak to the CCRB investigators. Our general counsel speak with the CCRB general counsel. I, of course, speak with John back and forth. And Ms. Alvarez, hi, Ms. Alvarez. But the thing is that you need to know that this vehicle is exceptional, and you have to treat it with all the actual assistance that they can actually muster to actually address matters. And I really, really, really applaud your efforts, board members, because it is a thankless job. It really is. And you are not appreciated. I feel I'm not going to be appreciated in the future, but it's a situation where it's needed. I also serve as the chairman for the New Jersey State Conference, NAACP, and the Newark, New Jersey NAACP for criminal justice matters. So I am all over the place regarding trying to put together an effective vehicle, and I want to actually thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you, Mr. Robinson.
You all are.
If I could just say one thing, Mr. Robinson and his team for years have been working so hard to build the Newark CCRB, and it's been our pleasure and our honor to work with them to help them forward in that goal.
You all are so appreciated. My name is Mari Moss. I serve in various capacities in the city, including the board that gives funding to this SYEP. So I'm glad that the young people did an excellent job this summer. And I just wanted to speak to express my sincere sadness over Chair Arva Rice leaving this post. I heavily advocated I came up in the NAACP at 8 years old. My aunt said, you all will not be statistics. You all will start a club. I don't care what you call it, but it's going to be the NAACP. So I became vice president of the NAACP youth chapter when I was 16 years old for the entire state because of my aunt. But I just want to say that you have, Ms. Rice, I have great admiration and respect for your example of excellence in this position. I've known you for over 14 years when I was helping to develop the Foundation for the Advancement of Women with Mary J. Blige, and you have done excellent work for the New York Urban League, as well as the CCRB, and the many other amazing things that you do throughout community in your service. And also, as a former Girl Scouts, we were always told that you have to leave something better than you left it. And when you got there, and you definitely have done that. I think that Mayor David Dinkins, who was instrumental in beginning the CCRB, would be extremely proud of the work that you've done. And that was beyond full time. I mean, you said it was part-time. You've done more than I think most people who have done full-time work have done in this organization. You increased the budget. You increased the staff to 19 new staff members. You decreased the backlog. I don't need to repeat everything that you said, but you accomplished a lot in a short amount of time. And I think that holding people accountable going forward is going to be the biggest thing that needs to be done. I often say I feel like I was spoiled, being in the Bloomberg administration in the mayor's office. I did not like the stop and frisk policy, but he taught us that every single New Yorker is our constituent, that we were getting paid taxpayer dollars to serve the people. And in service to the people, we were to give them our best at everything that we did. And, metrics, measuring those results and how we were able to give measurable, deliverable outcomes for the people of this city. You've done that here. So I just want to say thank you for your service. I'm really sad, desperately sad to see you go, because you were an example of excellence again. And I hope that this is a model for other new chairs to take when they come into this position, but it's going to be big shoes to fill. So.
Thank you very much, Mari, for those comments. And the thank you goes to the incredibly hardworking staff of the CCRB. I cannot claim credit for the accomplishments that this agency has done and the hard work of this board as well. So thank you. Ma'am.
Hello, good evening. My name is Princess Ben James. I'm a member of Community Board 8. I'm very active in my community. The last time I really stand and spoke is when you guys were located at Reed Street. So that's years ago. The reason why I'm standing here in the presence this evening, it has to do with an incident occurred in July the 12th. And this has to do with a tenant who is a school crossing guard. But my problem is this young lady weaponized her uniform. She used her uniform as a weapon. And the 7th precinct is helping her to do that. There's an incident occurred where her daughter and her friend and the landlord threatened my life. I called 911. This was 8:53 at night. She literally put on her uniform and came downstairs. The first thing she said to the officer, "Oh, you know me." And the officer went from listening to say, "I cannot stop nobody from sitting on my steps." What I'm saying is they already picked sides. And she have done this before. And I observed it where my son was living there, who was a 26-year-old veteran, where she called her daughter, create problems, and she called the precinct. I don't understand how this young lady can call the precinct, the 73rd precinct, and they can come in a drop of a dime. And if I call them, when my cameras was vandalized, I'm still waiting for them to come. So my question is that she's a school crossing guard. I know she falls under the police, One Police Plaza. How come a school crossing guard can use her uniform weaponized as a weapon when the police officers cannot use it, but also the 73rd precinct, which I went there and I told them they are helping her to do this. And this is what I don't know what the step I can take. So that's why I'm here to find out what step I can take, because she's being allowed to use her uniform as a weapon against my son and I. And the 73rd, some, not all the officers, some of the, I really don't want to make an ambiguous statement. Some of the officers, especially the one who came a few times and I have them on camera, is allowing her to do this. Thank you.
So, ma'am, I wanted to say, first, the CCRB does not have jurisdiction over school safety agents, even though they are in New York City Police Department. As we discussed earlier, not every employee of the NYPD is in the CCRB's jurisdiction. But I'm hoping you could stay and talk to one of our investigators, because it may be that something that happened is in our jurisdiction. And if it turns out that all of the things that you bring up are not in our jurisdiction, we can still refer it to the right agency.
That's the reason I'm standing here.
Excellent, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Are there any other comments? Any other comments? Oh,
So if you do, come on. We should have pretended not to see this one.
Mhm.
We should have pretended not to see this one.
Hello, my name is Andrew. I've been coming here for years saying that law enforcement is attacking and terrorizing me, and so far nothing has been done. Just recently, I sent text messages to one of my ministers saying that they're blocking me from getting a job until they steal like one of my cell phones. And when they did steal my cell phone at the Department of Labor, I called 911 and they refused to come out. So this has been going on for years, that law enforcement has been terrorizing me. Can I give this to somebody?
Yes, if you give it to me, so I'll take it.
Mr. Bishop is not here?
Mr. Bishop isn't here.
Okay, the first page talks about how, according to the Department of Justice, law enforcement is terrorizing the American public by getting revenge upon the people. The second one is talking about, just let me take a look. The second one is Philando Castle. According to the New York Times, this guy was followed around for 13 years, and he was executed by the police. Again, Department of Justice, law enforcement, they like to get revenge upon people. The third one is talking about how law enforcement, if you witness or I witness law enforcement murder somebody, they could get us not to testify against them. How? By tossing us in the sidewalk against our will. That's what it says here, according to the newspaper. So if you have evidence against law enforcement, they could toss you in the sidewalk, like New York City Police Officer Adrian Schoolcraft, Police Detective Nella Gomez, Los Angeles Police Officer Christopher Dorner. So these people are identified as crazy because they have evidence against law enforcement for their criminal activity. The other one is talking about how police ambush me. And the last one is talking about how law enforcement getting people fired and making them homeless. And that's according to the court case. So if anybody wants to get a copy of these, they could email me at Corrupt Cops Attacking Me or Police Attacking America, the number 2 at gmail.com, Police Attacking America, number 2 at gmail.com. I'm more than happy to send my evidence, the copies of the court cases. Law enforcement is terrorizing the American public, not just in New York City, but they're doing this throughout America. And every time I came here, nobody has done nothing against these corrupt cops attacking me, ever. So I come here again.
you have anyone else making a public comment this evening?
Good afternoon. I'm Anthony Jennings. I have a young man here who was stopped by a police officer on his daughter's birthday in the 67th precinct. He's a little nervous first time. So
good afternoon, everybody. I said good afternoon, everybody. Well, on May 24th, me and my cousin, we went to Brooklyn. I'm not from Brooklyn, I'm from Queens County. So I was driving casually, I didn't have anything, no music playing. I didn't have any weed in my possession. Didn't have anything unusual, basically. So I'm driving. I see that it was a gray detective behind me. I look, I seen him. I told my cousin, but we wasn't scared or anything, you see what I'm saying? Because I didn't have anything on me. So I moved up just a little bit. He put his lights on. Me personally, I felt like they were antagonizing me. So I jumped out the car immediately, you see what I'm saying? Maybe that was a red flag for me, but I jumped out the car because I felt like they were coming for me. Understand what I'm saying? Now, the first thing I said was to them was, what is the reason for you stopping me? You see what I'm saying? The fact that I jumped out the car, I guess they were aggressive and they came and they grabbed me up. I told them, don't touch me. What is the reason for you stopping me? So I continue to ask them. Now they're getting physical with me. As they're getting physical with me, they took my cousin out the car. I see that. Now they grab me up. There's a Chinese guy and then there's a sergeant. The sergeant, he's not really touching me, but the Chinese guy is more like he's using force and he's trying to break my arm at the same time. So now he's trying to break my arm. I'm basically starting to tell him, like, don't touch me. You see what I'm saying? Don't touch me, don't touch me, don't touch me. And now the sergeant is like, oh, this, that, and the third. Basically, he's not trying to tell me what happened. We're going to tell you what's going on at the precinct. So I'm asking him to tell me what I did wrong. And after that, the Chinese police officer, he grabbed me, put me in the back of my car, and he kind of like put my arm this way, and he bent it and just started twisting it this way and try to break my wrist. And I still have like right here, you can still see. It's kind of like messed up right here. See what I'm saying? So I'm still going through things, every day with the New York Police Department, trying to stay out their way, but I feel like I'm antagonized. But I tried to sue them, but they told me I need a lawyer. The CCRB told me that I needed a lawyer. And I'm not sure. Like they said they had an investigation, they had to make an investigation. And I just what do you think?
Sir, do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
Of course.
Did you file a complaint with the agency?
I had to file a complaint.
You did. But
Because I went to the hospital. So they had all the information.
But have you filed a complaint with us yet?
No, I haven't came and they called me first. Investigator had called me.
Okay.
Then they told me I needed a lawyer.
And did you? So just to be clear, there were two things. One, the CCRB, we investigate and see if the officer committed misconduct. And if the officer did commit misconduct, we recommend that the department discipline the officer. But that doesn't get you money. So if you want compensation for damages, that you have to get a lawyer and sue, but they're two separate processes. So we can still investigate if you don't have a lawyer, but it won't get you personally any money.
Yeah, that's what I was told. I was told that.
Okay.
The first conversation I had.
So did you follow up with our interview?
My phone is broke and I have a lot of things going on. So
would you mind giving a statement today before you went home?
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Okay. All righty, thank you. Do we have any old business to come before the board? Any old business? Do we have any new business to come before the board?
I would ask if someone more senior than I on this board introduce the resolution for this occasion with our commendation and gratitude to our chair. And if not, I will.
Just done it. 1 second, I'm out of word.
Anybody else want to move that? I mean, I'm the junior guy. So move.
All those in favor?
Definitely aye.
All right, all those opposed? Okay, unanimous. I'm going to move now that we break into executive session. The agenda for executive session is the board will consider one full board case. The executive director will discuss pending personnel actions and the general counsel will provide updates regarding pending litigation. I'd like to make a motion for the board meeting to be adjourned. Do I have a second? Second. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. The August board meeting for CCRB is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.